Hi, I'm Joe, and this is an ONKYO CP-1000A turntable. I snatched this thing from Goodwill for a very cheap price. I thought I was getting a good deal. I figured the belt was perished in it, but upon getting it home, I found out that there's actually supposed to be a couple of female RCA leads coming out of there, kind of dongle style. I don't know why they did that. Turns out somebody thought that they needed it for something else more than I did, so that's fine. What originally started out as just going to be a belt replacement video is actually turning into a full-fledged repair video, so that's fine. Now I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to replace the stylus on it, but that can wait for now. Seeing as the belt finally came in today, let's go ahead and dig into this thing. Alright, so first things first, we're going to go ahead and remove this platter. I figure I'm going to do the belt last, seeing as that's something you would usually do last anyways. What I'm going to have to do though is take this apart, actually flip it upside down and get to the screws on the bottom, and then actually probably take the stylus off or figure out some way to brace that so I don't mess that up while it's upside down. Basically, here's the slip mat. We'll take that off first. And then we'll just kind of plop the platter out. Should just pull up, kind of like that. You can see where the old belt was, and it literally turns into goo. So beware of that. Okay, so now for the head of the stylus, there's this little thing here, this little kind of plastic screw. Oop, there it is. We'll leave that there for now. Now I believe you can just kind of pull this off. There we go. You can just kind of pull that out. I've been wanting to look at this. Yep. So when I first got this, the stylus was actually off onto the platter. I got it at Goodwill, and it definitely looks, I don't know how well that's coming across, but it looks like the needle is damaged. It should still reproduce sound, I would imagine, so I'm going to use this for testing purposes, but I do think I'm going to set this aside. There's kind of the internals. Don't forget to try to get all of the belt off of the little wheel there too as well. So the speed selector, when you hit it, actually moves this little arm back and forth, which raises the belt up and down on this little axle here that connects directly to the motor. I'm sure it's not called an axle, but I don't know what it's called. So if you'll notice, the top is smaller than the bottom, which when it spins, that equals to, you know, it's going to make a different RPM each time. So that's how that works. Pretty simple and pretty cool. So now this is only an auto return turntable, meaning it's not fully automatic, but it's still pretty cool. Well, alright, so there it is, flipped upside down, using a little mini boom box to kind of keep it off of the stylus. So now there are screws here in the feet, but then there's 4 around the outer parameter and then 1 in the center. I think I should be able to just take those off, and then this bottom piece will be able to come up, but I'm not sure. I think I might have to actually get in and take these screws out too. This has little feet that actually have springs in them, so kind of a form of isolation, which is pretty cool. Okay, so it is pretty simplistic. There's 4 screws that go around the outside, and then there's 1 in the center, and then you take actually these feet off, and then just as easy as pie, you can go ahead and pull the back off. Have a little look inside. There's the motor. Power cord goes out there. That's the bottom of the turnstile, or whatever you call it. I don't know really the names of all of these. I'm not too familiar with record players, but this seems pretty simplistic yet pretty well made. Pretty interesting, actually. Very cool. So this is what I'm looking at. This right here actually is the RCA out. I could tap in right here and try to mimic that. You gotta have a pretty decent set of RCAs, and they have to be obviously female at the end. Or I could try to hook up, because I do have a couple of RCA female adapters that I've taken out of things. But I don't know if I'm going to do this or just try to splice it up here and then have them come out there. So what I did was I went ahead and took the output RCAs and separated them. And then I took this little connector that I found. I actually had two of them. And finagled it in there to where it would actually, you know, fit properly, just kind of like the old ones did. Figured I'd have enough room for the joint and everything. What I did was I took a little piece of heat shrink and I put it on one of the positive ends of the RCA leads and made my joint, and then just kind of pushed that heat sink over it, or excuse me, heat shrink over it, and then actually, you know, put some heat to it. Now the reason why I'm doing this like this is your negative lead on RCAs usually wraps all around the outside of your positive lead. So that's kind of what I'm going for here. It cuts down on interference and stuff like that, RF. So this should work pretty good actually. Then I went and took some electrical tape and electrical taped it up, which should work pretty good. Now what I'm trying to do here is just, you know, kind of lay everything back as it was. It's not exactly perfect, but I was just kind of, you know, making sure not to mess up those little leads that go actually to the phono cartridge. Alrighty, so there it is all done. More than enough room. Everything fit just perfect in there actually. And yeah, it's looking pretty good. Alright, so doing the belt isn't too hard. What you're going to want to do is just kind of wrap it around this part. Shouldn't be too hard. Kind of something like that. Now if you notice, it's got these holes in here. So what you're going to want to do, just drop the platter down. I'm going to have to flip this around. And so as you can see, we actually have the little capstan, or whatever that is the motor that the belt goes around. So what you want to do is get something to grab your belt with. I don't know if something sharp like this would be smart, but it's what I'm going to use. Maybe I won't. I'm going to try to use these little tweezers to just kind of get back behind the belt. You don't want to damage the belt at all. So kind of like that. And now what we're going to do is bring it up. And then all the way kind of over in there like that. And we are there. Pretty simple. And then this will actually, once it spins, we'll bring it down into there to make it spin faster for a 45. I don't have any 45, so I'm just going to keep it on 33. Feels very good torque. So makes me feel like the belt isn't going to slip, so that's good. Alright, make sure that's in there all good. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the stylus and we're going to put that back in there. Don't want to go forcing anything, but you do want to make sure it's all the way in there. Now we will take said screw from earlier, go ahead and put this in there. Bada bing. Alright. Slip mat back on. And I think that's going to do pretty good. Man, I'm actually pretty excited to hear how this is going to sound. So you know what? Let's go ahead and do that now. Let's hook it up and see what happens. Okay, so here we go for a sound demo. Got it hooked up to the Denon. We're going to do a very short snippet of this. And this is a great album. And the reason why I'm using this album is because it's actually a really bad album. And I know for a fact that this stylus is messed up because I could see it. And I don't want it to ruin any of my, better albums. So we're going to go ahead and try this just for the sake of it being whatever. Okay. Go ahead, leave that up. Oh, there it goes. Dropper. That's making noise. Okay, so definitely hearing some crackling out of that speaker. And I'm definitely going to guarantee you can kind of see it right there, but the needle actually jogs off to the right. So I'm sure it's only catching one side of the groove, and that's what's making that speaker crackle. Other than that, it sounds all right. A lot of popping, obviously, but I actually can't believe that stylus sounds as good as it does because it is definitely damaged. But yeah, so there it is. Let's see if it'll do a 40. Let's see if it'll go faster. There we go. You could hear the belt kind of shift. And there it went back to 33. Let's make sure it actually went back to 33. Yep, I'd say that is pretty good sounding actually. So alright, next step is to get a new stylus and make sure that that's what actually fixes that crackling in the left speaker. I'm sure it's just because it's running on one side of the groove and it's not picking up the other side, so it's not getting the full stereo all the time. But so yeah, but I am going to change out on that obviously, but yeah, I think this one's going to take up the spot of the Audio-Technica, and yeah, I like it. There it is. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Hope this helped you out. If you want to find one of these and want to, kind of fix it, they're pretty easy to fix and they sound great. So definitely check out the Goodwills. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.